Hi everyone, and welcome back. In this video, we are going to work on adding control push buttons to our Node-RED dashboard. This way we can have some push buttons to actually control values in the PLC. Let's see how to do it. Let me get out of your way, and let's go ahead and open up WinLadder. And this is where we had left off before, where we were monitoring the program and we were using this internal relay M600 just to toggle the value of output Q0 to turn it on and off. So let's go out of monitor mode. And at this point, we can go ahead and delete this rung. We're going to go ahead and do something a little differently. Okay. And hit enter, make a new rung. So what we're going to do is we want to be able to subscribe to data over Mqtt, right? We want to be able to push a button on our Node-RED dashboard and have that send some data to the PLC so that we can do something. So let's first go in and get that set up. So if I go to configuration and Ethernet port 1 and scroll all the way down at the bottom, I can go into my Mqtt settings here. And here I want to go into subscribe. Okay. And again, we'd had a couple of different topics set up. I'll leave it as, I'll do this work in FC6A/data. We could do it in new data as well, but I'll do it in data. If I click on configure here, again, we were reading the temperature value back in, and that's fine. We can still leave that the way it is. Let's go down and add a couple of new values. So we'll go down and click the new value button. The first one, let's call this fan on button. Okay. And let's say this data is going to be a word. So values from 0 to 65,535. And I want to store that in a data register, and let's say we store that in data register D2000 in the PLC. I'm just picking a data register. Okay, so again, we're going to subscribe to data coming out of the Node-RED dashboard, fan on button, and we're going to store the data that comes off of that in D2000. Okay. All right. Let's do one more for the fan off button. So we'll have two buttons on our dashboard to turn the fan on or off. So new value, we'll call this fan off button. And again, we'll do a data type of a word, and let's store this in data register 2001. Okay. I'm good with that. So the on is going to be in D2000, off will be in D2001. Good enough. Let's hit OK, and OK, and OK. Now what we need to do is we need to write just a little bit of logic to help us process this when it comes in from the Node-RED dashboard. So the first thing I want to do is let's put in a load compare instruction. So if I go to my Home tab, Advanced Instructions, and Data Comparison, down at the bottom, we've got Load Compare, and I'm going to do a Load Compare equal to. Okay. I can put this right up against the left power rail. I don't need an input condition to turn this on. It will run on every scan of the PLC for this particular instruction. And what I want to do is I want to do a Load Compare, and I want to check, is data register D2000, which that was our fan on button, right? Value. If that is equal to 1, so if the button's pressed, then I want to turn on, let's go basic instructions and output, and let's just use an internal relay here. Maybe we'll use, let's say, M2000 for that. And that's our fan start bit. Okay. All right. Now, let's also, on this run, go ahead and put in a timer that will reset D2000 back to 0. Okay. So we want to be able to see that that button was pressed, and we want to leave that for a little bit of time so we make sure we see it in this bit, but then we want to go back and turn this value back to 0. So let's do that. So I'm going to draw a ladder line down, and let me put in a timer. This is going to be an on delay timer. And let's say this is timer, I'm not sure what we've used, let's use timer 10. An on delay timer, and this will have a value of just 1 second. Okay. And when that timer elapses, we want to move a value of 0 back into D2000. So advanced, move, and move. Left click to drop it in, double click to edit it. We want to move a value, our source 1 of 0, into our destination, which is D2000. Okay. All right. Now we want to do the same basic thing for the fan off button value. Okay. So what I can do is I can simply copy this code and paste it and make a couple changes. So let's do that. I copy this, select it all, Control C and Control V. And now if I scroll down, you'll see, no, I didn't paste it. Let me paste it down here, there. So now I've got basically the same code that's duplicated, right? So this top section here is for the fan on button. And let's do some additional code down here for the fan off. Okay. Well, this load compare, we said the fan off button was D2001, right? It was where we were going to store that value, our fan off button value. And let's use M2001 as our fan stop bit. So we'll change that to M2001, and that will be our fan stop bit. And we need to use a different timer. A 1 second timer is fine, but we need to change this from maybe from timer 10 to timer 11, just another timer that we're not using. And we also want to change this move. We want to move a 0 into D2001. Okay. And let me show you a trick here. You can change this address by using the plus and minus keys on your keyboard. So if I just select that and hit plus, it will increment the address. Minus will decrement it. Just a shortcut way of doing things. All right, so we've got our control code in there for the button. When we see the button, the fan on button is pressed, then I want to turn on my fan start bit. After a second, I'm going to move a 0 back into this fan on button value register. And same thing for my fan off button. When I see that button get pressed, it'll have a value of 1, and I'll turn on my fan stop bit. Okay. Now what we need to do is let's go down and actually write a start-stop circuit to control that fan. So I'll hit enter, let me make a new run. And this is a basic start-stop circuit. So normally open contact of M2000, our fan start bit. A normally closed contact of our fan stop bit. And we'll take that to our output, which is output Q0. Physically on the PLC, it's real world output Q0. And then let's make this a seal-in circuit. So we'll parallel down here and add a normally open contact of our fan, Q0. Okay. So again, this is just a standard start-stop circuit, a seal-in circuit. So once we see the start bit pressed, as long as the stop bit is not, our fan will start. The very next scan, this contact here will be on, so that will seal in this circuit, so it doesn't matter if M2000 is on or not at that point. If Q0 is on and the stop button isn't pressed, the output will be on. Whenever the stop button gets pressed, that'll break this circuit and the fan will turn off. Okay? All right. One other thing let's add in is, since we were using M600 for that fan status, you remember we were manually controlling that, or excuse me, we were using that to control the fan. Let's go ahead and use that bit to represent the fan status. We just automated the process. So what we can do is we can parallel off of this output, and we can put in an output of M600. And that doesn't control our fan. That is our main fan status. That's Q0. Okay. All right. Let's go, before we download, let's go back into our MQTT settings just to make sure everything is okay. I think it is, but let's just double check it. So we're publishing main fan status. It's publishing M600. That's good. So again, that's going to reflect whatever Q0 is based on how we set the logic up. So that's fine. We don't have to change anything there. We're good. Okay. Because again, M600 is going to replicate whatever Q0 is. So that is the status of this fan in the real world based on our control sequence here. Okay. Let's download that. Excuse me. Let's go and download. And then we'll go into Node-RED and we'll add in another section to do our control, to actually send data out of Node-RED. So let's go to a browser and go back into our Node-RED workspace. And let's see here. What we want to do, let's go ahead and we'll make another flow like we did up here at the top for monitor, temp, trend, and PLC communications. Let's go ahead and click this plus sign to add a flow. And we'll call this control, because we're going to be doing control in this section. All right, what we need to do now also is we need to add an MQTT output node, okay? Because we're sending data out over MQTT. So let's do that. If we scroll down under our network nodes here, we've got MQTT out. Let's drop it in. And we can double click on it to configure it. And you'll see the server has these, it's the same server as what we set up for our MQTT input node. Okay. And it's also using the same port number and the same TLS configuration, those same certificates that we imported for our input node. It's also using the same ones on our output node. Okay. So if yours happens to be blank, then that's okay. What we can do again is just fill in this server, and the easiest way to do it is we can get it from one of our MQTT input nodes, right? Just copy it out of here, or maybe edit this here. It might be easier to copy it that way. Just go in here and copy it. And come into our control node, or excuse me, our output node, and paste it. And then again, it's port 8883. We want to use TLS, and we click on the pencil to edit this. And again, if yours are blank here like this, then all we need to do is simply re-import these certificates. So if I click on for the certificate, if I click upload here, and in my download section, these are the certificates that we created in an earlier video. So again, I want the certificate file, which is certificate.pem, the private key, so I'll select the private key file, and the CA certificate. And click update. Okay. So that's good. That's all we need to configure in there for the output node. All right. Now the topic, we've got to specify what topic are we publishing over. Okay. So in this case, what we're publishing over is still FC6A / data, right? That's the topic. Okay. QoS was 0, and retain, we can set to false, is off, we weren't using it. And this we'll call, we can leave it blank, it'll fill that in. So if we hit done, it shows FC6A data, the topic, and then this is an output node. Okay. All right. So what we need to do now is we need to add in a button. Okay. We'll add in a button for our fan start, and we'll add a button in for our fan stop. So if we scroll down here to our dashboard and we grab a button node, drag and drop it in, and we'll double click to edit this thing. For group, let's pick a different group. We want to make a new UI group. We'll put this in a control group. So add new UI group. Click the pencil. Again, the tab, it's still in the IDEC automation dashboard. It's all going to be on one screen. But for the name, we'll change this to control. And everything else we can leave alone. If I click add, that'll make that group, and now that's what I've got selected here. Control. The size, automatic is fine. Icon, we don't need an icon on it. The label, let's say main fan. Let's make this our stop button first. Okay. All right. Now, if I scroll down, you'll see I've got some options here. I've got a payload that I can enter, and I've got a topic that I can send out. So what I want to do here is I want to set this payload. Okay. So what I want to do is set this to be a JSON message. Okay. So my payload is going to be a JSON message, just like our incoming data is in JSON format. And what I want here is what we entered for our fan stop. All right. This is going to be the stop button. So let's go back and double check just to make sure what we put into our Mqtt settings here, just to verify it. And we used, what did we say we wanted to use? Fan on button and fan off button as the names. So fan off button and fan on button. Okay. All right. So in here, what I want is, I've got to do this in JSON format. So I need the opening squiggly, a quote, and then the value was fan off button. And let me move my mouse out of the way. Okay. And then a closing quote, colon, and then what do we want to send? We want to send a 1, right? Based on our logic, we said when we saw a 1 in there, that's when we were going to turn on the fan stop bit. So we want to make this a 1, and then we need to put in the closing little squiggly bracket. So we've got an open squiggly, quote, our value, which was the message that we put in, or what we put in for the Mqtt subscribe, was fan off button, ending quote, colon, and then the value that we want to send. Okay. And our topic here, we can go ahead and specify that again if we want. We'll change this to string A to Z, and we'll just make the topic FC6A data. Okay. All right. If I click done, that's what we've got to do. Now we want to make another one for our fan start button. So I can simply copy and paste this node. I copy it, I paste it. I can go in and double click it to edit it. All this is fine. I just need to change a couple of things. The label, this is going to be main fan start. And down here for my payload, it's going to be fan on button. Okay, still sending a value of 1, and that's the topic. That's the same topic. All right. So if I click done there, all right. And again, this is my MQTT output node. So what I can do is I can connect these two buttons to my output node. Okay. All right. What I want to do now is in the dashboard section here in the Node-RED editor, click on my little triangle drop down and go to my dashboard. You'll see now I've got another section, control, right? It added that in for me because I added these additional dashboard nodes to our flow. Okay. Now, if I want, I can move this control around. Maybe I want to put that before the read-only status. So maybe I left-click on this group name and drag it up so that I'll first have PLC communications, then a control section, then a monitor section, and then my temperature trend. I'm good with that. Let's go ahead and click deploy and go to our Node-RED dashboard. And you'll notice that things have gotten a little bit jammed up here because of the width of some of these settings. Okay, and that's okay. We can adjust the width of these and make this kind of smooth back out a little bit. But you can see we've got all four sections now. PLC communications, control, monitor, and our temp trend. We've got our two buttons here, fan stop and fan start. Okay. And again, if we wanted the start to come before the stop, we could simply adjust that in Node-RED in the dashboard layout in here. Where am I at? Here. All right, I can adjust these in here if I want. So let's check this out and see if this actually works. So if I click fan start, that should send that message down to the PLC, and we should see main fan should change from off to on over here. And there it goes. Main fan is on. Let's try the stop button. And main fan is off. Okay, so this control sequence is working. We're able to start and stop the fan, which is a real-world output on the PLC. And let's look at that. Okay, let me bring up the PLC program here. Let's go into monitor mode. And again, let me shrink this a good bit. And let's go over and look at real-world output Q0. Okay. So if I click my main fan start button, and I got to go back into WinLadder, we can see that real world output, that Q, is on the PLC. If I hit my fan stop button, back into WinLadder, then you can see that likewise it turned it off. So this little control sequence is working. So this is how you can add push buttons for control to your project. All right. Now in the next video, what we're going to do is we are going to add another object in here. We're going to add a numerical input. So we'll see how to do that. So thank you for joining, and we hope to see you on the next video.